Okay, so this is a test live stream. Hello. Okay, I'm trying to test out how this live streaming thing works. So this is going to be interesting. I've got my own stream up on my phone to see how long this delay is. Okay, so this is a test. It's quite a long delay. Let's see. I'm doing great, thanks, guys. How is everyone else doing? Okay, so this is cool. I've got this thing set up and I can project your chat on this screen, and I have these other screens I can switch to like this, and I can show my browser. Now I can't see your chat. Let's see. Switch back. Boom! Just like magic. So that is very, very cool. So yeah, some people were saying that they would be interested in live stream. So I have gone ahead and set up this thing on Restream. I've never used Restream before, so it's going to be interesting. Yes, Paul, you know what? Just for you, I am going to dance. And David, playing for Fort Mott. Yes, that sounds exciting. I haven't been to Fort Mott yet. I won't be going this year. I am getting ready for Days of Nights in 2 weeks' time, I guess it is. So that's something I'm really excited for. I haven't done Days of Nights yet, and it's been an event that I've really, really wanted to do. So I am really quite excited to get to that one. But yeah, Mott looks great, and I think you guys have quite a few people going this year, so that's great to see as well. Just want to check as well. You guys can hear me okay? I'll get myself up on my phone. Issues is going to be a little bit of feedback. So let's see. Yeah, so it seems to be quite a big stream delay, but that's okay. We'll make that work. Where is that? Where is Days of Nights? Days of Nights is in Ohio. I actually forget the exact park that it's at. It's actually organized by Ian Lespina from the Knight Errant channel. I don't know if you guys remember Knight Errant. Awesome channel. So it's like a timeline event that's more focused on ancient to medieval. So we do other events every year, like Military Through the Ages, which are a big timeline event that goes from ancient Greece to modern military. Days of Nights is a really, really cool event because it's really focused in. It used to be an only medieval event, but now they've opened it up to ancients. So it's sort of a cold steel event that focuses in on pre-gunpowder. So it goes, will be the earliest, I believe, at sort of 5th century BC, and then it goes all the way up to 100 Years of War or War of the Roses. But yeah, it's a really, really cool looking event. I haven't been, and last year it was just my friend Patrick that went. So we've got, I think, 5 or 6 Greeks this year. So it's still quite a small turnout, but well, 5 to 6 times bigger than it was the year before. So I really hope this event can become something bigger, because it sounds like it really meets the boxes. Because also I live in Canada, in Ottawa, and lots of the events happen to be really, really far away, unfortunately. So MTA, which is in Virginia, is a 15-hour drive, and it's just for a weekend. So it's like you spend as much time driving to the event as you do actually at the event, which makes it a little bit difficult to get to. Whereas Days of Nights is 10 hours away, which is still quite a long drive, especially for those of you in Europe. You might think, what, you're just driving 10 hours? But me and my dad go together, so we'd alternate the driving. Mike, you're in the UK. Okay. Yeah, maybe a little bit far then. If you are interested, I don't know what they organise anymore, but the Hoplite Association was a big group within the UK that did military events. I'm not sure when how active they are. I know there's still a few members of it. It used to be really, really big. But if you're in the UK, it might be interesting to go and check out the Hoplite Association. Actually, why don't we? Let me see if I can get the website up. Is it going to let me? Here we go. Hoplite Association. I still have to drive on the M25. Yeah, that is fair. That is certainly an interestingly designed motorway. Okay, let's see. So I switched to that. How do I change what this screen shows? That's the main question. This is quite a new thing for me. And Paul, if you're still in the chat as well, I also learned that I can actually invite people to join Restream, and you can actually go live with multiple people. So if we do want to get back doing the Sparta Re-Examined series, we could actually even do those live if we wanted to. We could turn those into a live thing, and we could get the whole crew on a split screen and actually stream that directly. And then we can also answer questions people have in the chat. Could be something that we could look at, or just doing the occasional live stream anyways. I think it'd just be quite cool to do it maybe once a week or something. Just the weekend seems to be when most people are interested. Do some form of chat live. So I thought that would be quite cool to do. I'm just going to quickly try and see how I can switch screens. Customize. Or do I have to make a new? What if I stop sharing? So that's something I have to figure out. I'm not actually quite sure how I can change the screens that I'm sharing from. Do I ever go to events with my Viking kit? I actually haven't. It's something that I have been interested in doing, and I actually started to rebuild up my Norseman impression. And the issue is basically every major event I go to is a Greek event, and I would never do a Viking event instead of a Greek one. But there's a few smaller events. We went to one this year at Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia. And that was like a really, really small event. And my friend Alex had just him and his friend went as Norsemen, or they might have been Normans or Norsemen. I can't remember. So there might be some smaller events that I do decide to actually go in my Norse kit. Although I'm actually working on a really, really exciting project, one that I've been wanting to do for a while. That is actually a sort of turn of the 14th century English knight. I've always wanted to sort of do a reenactment impression on someone that I'm actually directly related to. And Paul, who's still in the chat, Paul's very lucky because he is actually his was it grandfather or great grandfather was from Sparta, he said. So something I always think is kind of cool to actually have some form of lineage back to that group that you're reenacting. And I'm actually directly related to Blair of Baltheoch in quite a prevalent Scottish household. And I have the heraldry and signet rings and all of that stuff. So I've actually commissioned a hound skull bassinet from Art of Steel, and that should be getting made next month. So I'm actually really, really excited about that. And I'm actually going to be joining Labelle Company, which is Ian Lespina's group, to try and do medieval stuff. It's going to be a really long process. The money flow isn't as wealthy as it was now because of certain living conditions, but yes, so I'm planning to build an actual medieval impression around an Agincourt era, sort of dead on 1400 English knight. But otherwise, basically everything I do is Greek. Just wanted to say I really like your videos. It's great work. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Yeah, they're hopefully going to become more commonplace now. I'm trying to do 2 long-form videos a week is what I'm aiming for. And so far, YouTube's been doing some weird stuff. Views suddenly fell off a cliff and the channel was just completely dying. That seems to be what was happening to everyone on YouTube for a time. And now the recent long-form videos I've uploaded have been doing quite well, but all the shorts have not been doing well. And previously it was the opposite. My shorts were doing really, really well and the long-form wasn't doing well. Now they seem to have switched. I don't know what YouTube's doing, to be quite honest. I don't even think YouTube knows what YouTube's doing. But we're just going to keep uploading videos. Yeah, I just released the one with Martin's Heroes of Bronze. Is doing really, really well. So, I mean, that's great to see. Hopefully, with getting some interest building in that, it helps Martin get his project greenlit, hopefully. Oh, Paul, it was your great-granddad. Okay. But even so, that's kind of cool. You must be one of the only Americans that are related to the Greeks. So, and especially that recent in your bloodline as well. Now, I don't know how I can actually scroll down my chat in case I've missed any messages. Yeah, so I think when the live streams happen, most people said weekend. So this is just sort of a test stream just for fun. And thank you guys for joining us. That's really cool. So I think probably I'll be doing Saturday evenings will be the actual live streams that we'll do. How do you manage to get in touch with people like Roll? I'm curious, since he is certainly the most famous historian on the subject. Me and Roll are friends. So we met in Greece last summer for the Plataea event, and I'm friends with him on Facebook. So we chat from time to time, and yeah, sometimes I'll ask him to be in a video or whatever. So that's basically how I get in contact with him. Same with Paul. I met Paul a long time ago now. We met in person in 2022, but we were friends on Facebook again before that. And I just summon them when I need their help. Basically, is how it works. I just blow the whistle and they arrive, which is great. And yeah, that's basically how that works. One of the best things to join, I don't know if you're on it, is the IHOP, the International Hoplite Discussion Group on Facebook. There's a massive collection of people on there, from amateurs that just have a slight interest in military history to full-on historians, and that's a great way that you can interact with people of all sort of types and get quite pally with people. Really, really great resource. I think there's been a sort of an influctuation of people who are very novice in that group, which is great, because before it was sort of a little bit higher academically, I think. The issue is now sometimes it's getting flooded with questionable posts, but anyways, really, really a great resource for people to get in. Oh, Paul, you actually invited Roll to Plataea. Oh, okay. That makes sense. I know you guys have done a few things together previously. And I think Roll is also planning on attending Pylos next year as well, which I'm currently not sure if I'm going to. I hope that I am. But it will sort of depend on the actual organization of the event. But yeah, it looks like so far Andrew's ideas for that seem pretty cool. And also, for those of you that are in this chat as well, I know lots of you guys that watch this channel are really interested in trying reenacting. I know that lots of you guys are all over the world here, and not all of you are North American, but a lot of you are North American. And one of the biggest hurdles to sort of get around when it comes to reenacting is actually getting started in reenacting. And most groups, even if you're not interested in doing ancient Greek specifically, but you want to do other eras, pretty much every group is, you don't need anything to start. So even if you guys say you want to try a Greek event or want to try a medieval event and you don't have a kit built together, if you guys want to come out to an event and try it, most groups have loaner kits. So we have loads of loaner shields, loaner helmets, loaner armor, loaner tents, stuff like that, that people can come out if they're trying to get into reenacting, and they can borrow those whilst they build their kit. So reenacting, I mean, really, if you want to do Greek reenacting, if you want to go the heroic way, you just have to be heroic nudity. But otherwise, all you need is a chiton, really, and then you can get started. We don't actually do heroic nudity, thankfully, in our events, to Paul's dismay. Yeah, so if any of you guys want to get into reenacting and you are in North America, and as I said, I'm in Canada, in Ottawa, we have people from Florida. We literally spread basically all across North America, and the Greek Phalanx is the largest and I think only operating now Greek reenactment group within the continent. So if any of you guys do ever want to try Greek, you can reach out to me on YouTube or my Instagram, or directly get in contact with the Greek Phalanx on the website, and you guys can definitely try out an event if you really want to. Roll has a reenactment kit. No, he doesn't. Well, he technically has a few bits. He has a chiton, but otherwise, Roll. It was the first time that he'd ever done reenacting, I believe, at Plataea last year. And he basically just did a few things. Some people let him wear the hoplite staff. He was a peltas certain times. He sort of hopped around a little bit. But I think overall he had quite a good time, which is great, because, I mean, it'd be awesome to get Roll out there more often, and more historians out there more often. And that's one thing that I really, really find why, I mean, that's why Paul's so great, is that he is an academic and a reenactor, and I think he bridges that gap perfectly of having that academic background and having that practical experimental background. Because you get, you know, reenactors who are only practical and don't have any scholarly background, and that's also great. That can give you a lot of insight, but then at the same time, you don't necessarily have the sources to back much up. Then you have the academics who have the sources, but they have no practical knowledge, and they can, you know, say things that, you know, hoplites can't run. Well, hold on, have you ever worn armor and run it? You can. So, you know, there's different perspectives that reenactors have, and sort of living historians, I guess you could say, have, that scholarly historians don't, and vice versa. So I think it would be absolutely awesome to see more scholarly academics engaging in that sort of experimental archaeology field. And I think they can bring that to their scholarly approach, and I think that could be a really, really good addition to their knowledge. Greetings from Germany. Hello. Lovely to have you here. Thank you very much for stopping in. Been reenacting the World Wars for 20 years. So that's interesting. Lots of our members used to do World War II and American Civil War, and then they sort of jumped to ancient Greek, which is quite a big gap. I've wanted to often do 1812 or Napoleonics. 1812 in Canada is pretty big. It's something that I thought would be interesting. But one of my actual biggest issues with it is that there are so many sources. And this sounds really funny, but this is one of the things I love about ancient Greek so much, is that a lot of it is experimental, and a lot of it is sort of a lot of piecing together different clues. And that's one thing that I really love about it. It also drives me mad, because it's like, I just really wish I'd answered this question. Whereas when you get, obviously, the closer to present, you have more sources. And when you have just so many accounts in more modern era stuff, like, it's almost too overwhelming to try and educate yourself in it. So I typically really like ancient stuff. How do I see the rest of that chat? I really like your channel because you're one of the only ones which gives us perspective from actual experts and writers. And unfortunately, the rest of that message is cut off. Or can I? Look at me go. I am a tech whiz. I've now found out a way to open my chat. There we go. Sorry. I really like your channel because you're one of the only ones which actually give us perspective from actual experts and writers on the subjects. I heavily dislike most history YouTubers for that reason. Thank you. Yeah, it's something that I'm just really lucky to be able to have great friends like Paul and Benny and stuff like that that are willing to come onto this channel. And I really can't thank them enough for the amount of time that they've put into this. And yeah, it's something that I really try and do, is bring in those other voices that are, I'm just a guy who's been researching ancient Greece for a really long period of time and happens to be a reenactor, and that's the only thing that separates me from other people. You know, and I really appreciate the actual scholars that come on as well, especially again like Paul, who are scholars and reenactors. I think the information that they can give us is really important. And that's overall what I try and share, is I think I have an overall unique perspective that I can give that many historians and history YouTubers can't give. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm glad that that the channel is giving a different lens to many other ones. Paul says, definitely, I taught him how to use the spear and filmed it so he could shut down the Twitter bros. Oh, yeah, Platea with Roll. Yeah, I remember seeing that. He was stabbing a water bottle, I think, wasn't it? And he actually did quite well. Yeah, we got him on the overhand train, so that's good. That is mine and Paul's main crusade, I think it's safe to say, is the overhand videos. Ever heard of Stephen Pressfield? He's a US veteran Marine, I think, who wrote about ancient warfare. I wonder if people ever engaged with his book. It doesn't ring a bell. I'm not sure if I have heard of Stephen Pressfield. I don't think I have. It's surprising how contradictory 20th century sources can be. Yeah, well, again, that's an era that I haven't really looked into as much. But I believe it. I mean, and I often think that this is something. Look how contradictory our current narratives are within history and like even recent news. And unfortunately, ancient history and medieval history and pre-modern history is the same as well, right? We have to always deal with bias and contradictions and all of these things that cause trouble when we're trying to investigate these things. And he wrote Gates of Fire. Oh, okay, then yeah, I am aware of him. Although I actually haven't read Gates of Fire. But okay, yeah, I'm not that great with author names, to be quite honest. I'm not great with names in general. Someone can tell me an author that I've read and I won't particularly remember the name. But yeah, Gates of Fire is one that I actually haven't read, but it is quite a common one that people do read. Okay, and what about you guys? Are any of you guys have any upcoming events that you guys are going to be going to? I know, again, a lot of you guys are reenactors, and I know it's sort of coming towards the end of the reenactment season in this part of the world. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any events or projects that you're working on as well. Always nice to hear what you guys are up to. Oh, Roll doesn't like him very much. I wonder what I think about it. Yeah, I can't really comment just because I haven't read the book yet. Maybe it's something I should read. It's funny. It's not that I struggle with reading, but it's not my favorite style. Like, I'll always go audiobook if I can, because I like to multitask, and I'll paint miniatures and listen to. I'm listening to Thucydides' History of the Peloponnesian War right now, an audiobook, just whilst I do other stuff. That's just sort of how I work. But yeah, so it's actually I do read, but not as much as people might think that I do, like physically, anyways. In fact, Paul's book, excellent book, Hoplites at War, is one of the only ones that I basically sat down and read pretty much all the way through. what will be your last event until World War One Tactical in November. That's cool. Yeah, the tactical events sound really cool, and it's something that I'm really happy about with the ancient side, is that we're sort of growing at a rapid rate, and we're starting to actually get ancients only events and all sorts of other stuff. And I would absolutely love to do. I mean, Fort Loudon was an excellent event. We turned out 30-something people at Loudon this year, and that's enough size that you could do something with the fort, and you can have other stuff. And that's why, again, I really want Days of Nights to get more popular. Is not only is it an event that is more focused on our eras, but it's typically smaller groups of reenactors. Ancient, medieval, and that don't have typically as big of group sizes as World War I and II and Civil War and Revolutionary War and all of that. And it's really great to see the ancient field grow a lot, because previously it was basically non-existent, and even the reproductions available were quite notoriously bad quality at basically peak, and that was it. And in recent years, it seems to really develop. So I really hope that we can start to do more immersive and tactical events within our period. Let me go up here. We finished our season last week at Almario's History Festival. Nice. Okay. Yeah, I know lots of places are sort of turning down for the winter, but yeah, and then it's funny because, of course, all across the world you have like people in Australia who keep going all around. I know you do a lot of DIY and crafts. Have you ever tried casting bronze? I wouldn't say it's easy to master, but it's quite accessible. Not yet, but I actually do have a bronze casting kit. And my dad and I wanted to cast arrowheads and also coins. And we wanted to cast coins, we're probably going to use aluminium for those, to actually give out as tokens to kids at events. So if they ask good questions, whatever, we want to give them a coin. I have replica. I don't know if you can see in that display cabinet over there. I have sort of this top displays of recreations of artifacts, or actually original artifacts. And I have a few Scythian arrowheads that are cast from originals that I want to recast, and a few arrowheads that are cast from originals. And I also have a few original pot pieces. I have a piece of pillar, like a column. And I also have stones from battlefields. I have a stone from Plataea, possibly used to kill Mardonius. Probably not, but it's sort of a fun thing to say. And then I also have a stone from Pylos and Bacteria. Unfortunately, I forgot to pick one up at Thermopylae, which is really unfortunate. Thank you for teaching us all about my culture. Well, thank you for watching. I really appreciate you guys enjoying the channel. I often look back at this. I started this channel when I was 12 years old, and I knew absolutely nothing. And it managed to become something that is actually not terrible. So that's, makes me happy. Hello. Do you know any good reenactment shops for the EU? Yes, a lot of really good ones. A lot of it depends on where you are or what quality of armor or reproductions you're looking for. Some of the best armorers in the world are in Europe. So Ferran Garreta, the company that made me my Myros Corinthian, they're in Spain. They're absolutely phenomenal craftsmen, and they're a family business. They've been running for over 100 and something years. And they're absolutely excellent. They're expensive, but they produce really good quality stuff. There is Daniel Strando, who's the guy who made my cuirass over there. He's in Sweden. He's an excellent armor. He's a metalsmith. Like he makes bronze sculptures for a living, but he's now delved into armor and weaponry, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Other European armorers, Adam Mazier used to be there, but not anymore. He's not making armors. And then otherwise, there's retailers. So Res Bellica is an Italian-based company. They also make some of their own stuff, but they also sell other manufacturers. There's Arame, who is also I believe they're French. They're just a reseller, but they also have a craftsman. Otherwise, actually, most of the armorers that make Greek stuff are actually based in India. And the problem is you have some good quality armorers in India, and you have some really bad quality armorers in India. But there's a few that are really emerging to be quite good. So Liber Steel Crafts, they are up there in quality, not good with communication, unfortunately. You have to really keep pestering them. Genius Steel Crafts has made some good stuff, and Al Hamad Trading Post has made some good stuff. So, but lots of it depends on the budget that you want to deploy into the reenactment world, really. So some of the armorers, of course, like Ferren and Daniel, who made this stuff, and Mazia made the greaves that you can just see down there. They are, they take a long time to save for and purchase, and that panoply's been over 5 years, but they produce some of the best quality armor that you can get. But it takes a long time to get there, and that's one thing. Is lots of people, reenacting isn't a race; it should be a slow and gradual process. And I always recommend to, instead of split your budget across the whole kit, invest your budget in quality items and slowly create the kit, because you can have a very modest, minimalist kit and still be very, very good. Spend $1,000 on a really well-crafted helmet and then just be, an unarmored hoplite, as opposed to spending $1,000 on an okay helmet, an okay cuirass, and okay greaves. That's how I would personally recommend it. But anyways, I hope that helps. I also have a few videos on the channel of reenactment guides and armorer recommendations as well. If you're interested, you can find those around the channel. Okay, so Paul, you enjoyed Pressfield. He presents a view of Sparta that is very much an inaccurate mirror of US Marines. Spartans are much more like upper class English Victorian mixed. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that's difficult with the Spartans, is that they are just so weirdly presented by a lot of people. And I think, yeah, you're right. That is quite a good, quite a good description. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to catch up on all these. So, Paul, I know it's your subject of expertise, but since you comment on Sparta, not your subject of expertise, sorry, what is your stance on the Helot debate? Do you take the sources of their atrocious abuse as something factual? This is interesting, actually. I know this is a question to Paul, but I might chip in here as well, in terms of Spartans hunting Helots. I have been planning to do a video on this, and the complicated answer is when. Right, because we have a lot of sources that talk about Sparta. The problem is Sparta changes when these sources are talking about them. So when you have sources like Plutarch, who's writing in the 1st century AD, he gets a lot of his information from Philarchus, I believe, who is sort of living in a time of Spartan reform. Paul will be a lot better at discussing this than me. Yeah, Paul, we should definitely do a video on Helots. I think that would be something that would be really good. But the problem is we have vastly different sources describing the treatment of them. So, for instance, the Crepteia goes through 3 major phases. It's originally basically described as a rite of passage where certain boys are cast into the wild. Then it's described as a military sort of special ops spy unit, a scouting unit, and then it's described as culling Helots. And the problem is that they also it just changes. So, and I believe Plutarch actually says is that he believes the reasoning for the Spartans to basically call the Helots was after the great earthquake in, I forget the exact date, the 420s. There was a big revolt, and that after that time the Spartans had to crush the Helots. But before that, we're typically told that the Helots weren't typically that mistreated, especially for the period. And we also specifically know that the Spartans armed the Helots. So it seems interesting that you would fight and arm a group that are constantly trying to stab you in the back. People often cite that the Spartans supposedly had removable porpaxes so that the Helots couldn't bear arms. That's not a distinctly Spartan thing. We have a lot of mentions of porpaxes with removable pins. And I believe Herodotus basically mentions it as just being a storage thing. It allows you to stack aspides together. So that's not even necessarily to disarm it. It's for quite possibly just for storage. So it's one of the main things as we're talking about Sparta is when are we talking about Sparta? Because Sparta from the 7th century BC is very different from Sparta from the 3rd century BC, which is very different from Sparta from the 1st century AD. And that's the problem, is lots of our sources span hundreds of years. So lots of things people say about the Helots was correct for a time in Spartan history, but that isn't correct to the Sparta of Leonidas, for instance, if they're trying to sort of move these sources around. So that's one of the biggest problems, is people often view ancient civilizations as though they're static and never changing. But we have to realize that we're talking about these cities for 1,000 years. So they went through cultural, militarily, legal changes, societal changes. And the Helots are probably an example of that. The treatment of the Helots changed as Sparta changed, and different sort of different what's the one I'm trying to find? Sort of different occurrences within Sparta's development forced them to change the treatment of the Helots. So they're quite a difficult sort of subject to talk about. And a lot of it depends, again, on what era of Sparta you're talking about. But yeah, Paul, if we can start planning on doing a video on that, I think that would be really, really valuable. I had started to do some research on it and to get some sources on the Crypteia, but I just never finished it. A few people are saying hello, hello, hello. I'd love to get some bits based on the armies of my hometowns, Athens, and I'm sorry if I butcher this, Epidavros, and within the Peloponnese. Okay, do you have personal favorite pieces from these places, any time period? That's an interesting question. It's really difficult to sort of talk about armors from specific areas, because there isn't typically anything that is distinctly Athenian. You have sort of styles that are potentially common within these areas, and a lot of it really depends on the time period. So, some archaeological finds are found within the Spartan necropolis, for example, or within supposedly Marathon, if you want to check out a recent video I did on that. So we sometimes have archaeological finds that seem to be found within a region. It becomes difficult when we're trying to specifically detail armor that was specifically worn by different polis or city-states, because it doesn't really seem there was anything that was distinctly Athenian. So mainly it would depend on what era do you want to depict. Are you looking for archaic, early classical, mid-classical, late classical, Hellenistic? That's sort of where I'd start. And then basically any style of armor widespread within the Greek world would have been worn in those areas. So it's sort of hard for us to say. How well armored would Xenophon's lance have been? This is an interesting question, because Xenophon, I'm assuming you're meaning during the Anabasis. We have this idea that hoplites basically didn't wear armor in this time, but then at the same time, within his Anabasis, he's also talking about guys who are getting wounded through the body armor. So it seems to be in a time where armors are typically less armored than he would be in the archaic period, but we do still see people in helmets, cuirasses, and greaves. Probably safe to say that people were less armored, and I think it's been a while since I've actually read the Anabasis. People start to drop their armor because they're moving for so long. But you would have probably just seen a variety of different armor types. Do I have any interest in the Hellenic period? Do you mean the Hellenistic period? I have never actually been that interested in the Hellenistic period. I don't really know why. It's just never captivated me as much. I really, really love the Archaic period, specifically the sort of late to mid-Archaic period, into the Classical. And for whatever reason, I've just never been as interested in the Hellenistic period. But I've also never done as much research into the Hellenistic period. So it's not really something that I can talk about because, again, it's 700 years or so after my main focus. Or not 700 years, but it's a couple hundred years after my main focus. I don't know where I got 700 from. So I haven't actually really done that much research into the Hellenistic period, to be quite honest, but it's just never quite been an era that has captivated me as much. I'm sure it's really interesting if I delved into it, but my interest really sort of is focused on pre-Persian Wars to just after the Persian Wars, and of course the Peloponnesian Wars is also an interesting one to watch. I listened to a series of lectures, Ancient Greece History, from Matthew Keel, and he argued that most of Spartan's military politics was based on Helot revolts. Yeah, this is an interesting one that we often get sort of tossed around, that the Spartans formed a military power purely to stop their own working class from revolting. And again, I think this just depends on the period that we're talking about. It's quite a difficult question to answer, and it's just very, very complex. Overall, I think for most of the history, it wasn't. But at certain times, perhaps it was. There were occurrences where Helots were revolting quite a lot, and there are other areas where they're really not. So I think it really does depend on when we're talking about with Sparta. Yeah, fear of revolts. Yeah, again, it's just quite a complicated thing because it seems to be that the treatment of the Helots just rapidly changes around the 400 BCs, and that seems to obviously have an impact on Sparta, and that's when the Spartans seem to cull the Helots and declare war on them annually. But that seems to be a later source, and I believe Plutarch, even when he talks about this, is a source from Plutarch. I believe he specifically mentions that he believes that was a reaction to a specific Helot revolt that basically sparked that unrest. So it seems that some of it might have been, but again, it's sort of a later development. It seems to be around the 420s that sort of starts to happen. So archaic and early classical Sparta doesn't seem to have been as big of an issue. Helot's biggest influence on Spartan military is that the labor allowed all Spartans to be the equivalent of aristocrats. So yeah, absolutely, Paul. Yeah, they were. Well, yeah, but the Spartans were basically just a full group of aristocrats, and that's something that's also interesting when we're talking about Sparta. Is most people think of an army of Spartans. Really, the period term that we get is Lacedaemonians or Lacedaemonioi. And the actual Spartan body was typically a minority of these forces. So, at Plataea, I forget the exact numbers Herodotus gives us, but is it roughly 10,000 Spartiates and 30,000 other Peloponnesians that fight with them? So, the actual Spartan body seems to have been, quite small. But they were basically filthy rich and seems to have done certain things that allowed them to be more disciplined militarily. But most of their actual military strength doesn't necessarily come from their training, in the sense that they were particularly better soldiers, it typically comes from their militarized structure. So they seem to have had a more advanced structure than other states. They have more regimented groups, they have more officers within that line, and Xenophon literally explicitly describes their formation as being follow the leader. One of the things that the Spartans are sort of notorious at doing is marching down and changing the wheeling, essentially, to try and strike an army at an angle, and other armies would break trying to counter that, or not counter that and get hit from the side. And the Spartans were very, very good, especially for a time. There was basically a time where they won pretty much every major pitched land battle in Greece. The problem comes when you start to change the tactics on them. They seem to start to struggle. So when you get people like Polypidas and Epaminondas at Leuctra, who fight a battle in an atypical way, the Spartans seem to struggle, as they would. They were sort of dominating the traditional phalanx style of warfare, and when you start to change up the traditional style of warfare, then their strength isn't as prevalent, because that's not what they excelled at. Let's go. I think I saw a question up here about Socrates. So we know Socrates fought, and Socrates would have been quite a wealthy guy. So he was probably quite well equipped for the period. He would have been an aristocratic hoplite. Again, he was an Athenian citizen. He would have had to have served in the army at some point. We know that he did serve in the army at some point. So he would have likely have been decently well equipped for his period. Do you think the Spartans had any individual specific training for combat, like sparring with lances? We have no sources that detail this, but that doesn't mean that they wouldn't have done it. And I think it's a pretty safe bet, the same way that we play sword fight with sticks, that Spartans would have done the same, or Spartan kids would have done the same. We have no mention of it, of any form of actual weapons training. In fact, Xenophon basically describes swords as being an extension of your arm and relying on instinct. But I don't think it's that much of a stretch to assume that people, especially around camps or whatever, would entertain themselves by fighting within each other in some way. But yeah, no specific textual evidence that supports that. But I don't think it's really outside the realm of possibility. Really looking forward to the Heroes of Bronze series by your friend. Yes, I am too. I really, really hope that Martin gets that green. He's been working on that project for a really, really long time. And I think it will be, if it gets made, a really, really cool show, and something that really is unique. A historically rooted animated show taking place during the Greco-Persian War. And I think it has such great potential. I really, really hope that the project gets green. I think he told me that he's pitching it to a Netflix producer, so hopefully Netflix doesn't decide that they want to throw it out the window and change it from what its core is. But yeah, I mean, best of luck to Martin. I really, really hope that he gets that project greenlit, and if not, he's been talking to me, and he plans to keep it going himself anyway. So if worst case scenario happens, he will just continue to make the series. So and by training, I mean weapons training not working out. Yeah. So again, we don't really have any specific mentions of weapons training in a Spartan context, but I don't think it's necessarily an out there assumption to make that they would occasionally spar within each other. Yeah. Not much about the unification of Greece looked like. In what sense? In the sense of the city-states coming together to form a coalition, or the actual unification of Greece, as in when Greece became a country? how's the marine version of a hoplite or hoplites. Um, the Marines, I believe they are basically just regular hoplites, but I think we're told they typically wore less armor or lighter armor, but I can't exactly remember. But yeah, we know that triremes had a certain amount of Marines on them, but otherwise they seem to have basically just been equipped the same as hoplites. Good to hear. Yeah, I really hope that that Martin's project goes far. I think it has the potential, and what's great is overwhelmingly the response on that video has been really positive. So I hope that that can add some fuel to the fire, and at least Martin has that to show a potential producer that there is an audience for this. And I really hope that other YouTubers pick up on that as well. You know, like if Metatron or someone else can do a reaction to Heroes of Bronze just to get that out there more. I really hope that project can be built upon by the historical community. Would it fit within Amazon Prime's documentaries? I'm actually not sure. I'm really not sure within how producers really work in that industry. I think typically how it works is they purchase the rights and then they sort of do with the project what they want to. So sometimes they go against the sort of creativeness of the original. Hopefully that really doesn't happen, and I really hope that Martin sticks to his guns and stays passionate about the core of this, which he wants to produce a more historically rooted story. Whichever is more interesting for you to talk about. I think something that's always interesting to talk about is the unification of Greece, as how it's presented, in the sense that it was the Greeks united to fight the Persians, when actually a majority of Greeks fought for the Persians than against. I think that's always something that's sort of fun to talk about. Is that it was, you know, you had a massive amount of Greek sort of peoples actually fighting for the Persians. And that's, of course, something as well as we call the ancient Greeks. But really, they spread more than just what we think of today as Greece. But yeah, so actually when Xerxes invaded, there were more Hellenic forces fighting for the Persian Empire than against the Persian Empire, which is something that I think is quite interesting, and questions that narrative a little bit on you know, Greeks versus outsiders, as opposed to, it's sort of interesting when you actually consider that there are a lot of Greeks that fought for the Persians because they couldn't resist, right? They just got walked over and added to the empire. Persia is a really interesting culture as well. Something that I wish had more attention paid to it. I think that it's a really cool and unique imperialistic culture that often doesn't get very much focus. Would it be fair to say that peer pressure and social cohesion was the strongest force of hoplites against, say, Persians? I think yes, social pressure is quite a big part of hoplite warfare. You know, you are fighting quite literally with your countrymen and with your townspeople. Really, you know, you're standing next to friends, you're standing next to literal family members. So I think a lot of the courage, you have to remember that lots of these battles, you're really fighting fear more than you're fighting an opponent, right? It's casualty rates seem to be decently low. It's as soon as one side breaks, you lose. So arguably, yeah, there's a lot of psychological warfare as opposed to actual physical warfare. And I think, yeah, trying to not be deemed a coward by the people within your community probably played a massive role in why these people stayed in their designated places. And of course, it's important to note that basically every battle ended with one side not doing that, right? Basically, every battle ended with one side running away. So yeah, really, it is a psychological battle of fear and discipline in that sense. Maurice sometimes used, I don't even want to try and pronounce that word, build hooks to cut rigging emergency tips. Yeah, and Paul, you're probably a lot more sourced in Marines than myself. I haven't really done that much research on them. Are you in contact with Metatron? Yeah, me and Metatron, or Metatron and I, rather, we were supposed to be doing a collaboration video. We had two videos that we were supposed to be doing. One on comparing Sparta versus Rome as a military power, and the other one talking about scholarly versus practical historical approaches. And unfortunately, communication just seems to have gone dead. So I reach out now and again. He'll respond. But we're just trying to knuckle down a date really that works. And of course, he's really busy. He's uploading multiple videos a day. And I completely understand that. But yeah, so I mean, it must be close to a year ago now that we first actually started discussing that. So we are supposed to be doing a collaboration. I'm also supposed to be doing a collaboration with Matt Easton as well from Schola Gladiatoria at some point. But it's just really difficult to knuckle everyone down to do it. So I mean, I love doing the collaborations. I think it's really fun, and I think it's really important, especially when you consider how small the history world is on YouTube, especially that we try and work together as much as we can. And I think it's a lot of fun as well to sort of work together and see other creators doing things. And I'm actually really hoping, I know Ian doesn't do videos anymore, but Knight Errant, I might try and see if he'd be willing to do a video with me at Days of Knights. Might be something that we can do. You don't stream much anymore, but you'd be happy to post a video on it. I think you posted that when I was talking about Martin's Heroes of Bronze. I mean, yeah, anything would help, really. Just anything that that gets more people to notice this project, I think, would be really good. What is my religion? Yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't typically share politics or religion on my channel very much, and I don't really have an answer for that. I'm not an atheist, but I'm also not a theist. I would probably describe myself as agnostic. I'm definitely, by no means am I dead set that there is no God. I'm also just not necessarily convinced that there is one yet. It's an interesting situation, sort of how I would describe my religion. I describe myself as just being very open-minded, and I'm not even going to try and pretend that we can categorically say that there isn't one or is one based on our understanding of the universe. So could I see myself possibly converting to a religion later on in life? Absolutely, I definitely could. But as of right now, I've just sort of, I would say I'm religion undefined in that sense that I'm not atheistic, but I'm not theistic. I am just sort of agnostic. I think there's a lot of interesting historical sides to history that I love, and I have a lot of atheistic friends that I challenge. I like to play devil's advocate sometimes. But yeah, but as of right now, I would say I'm agnostic, but I wouldn't be surprised if that changes at some point in my life. Yeah. Didn't we get our Greek from Romans because we were on an island near Italy, or our name Greek? Yeah, I believe the Romans called them the Graecians, which I think is where we get Greece from in English. Yeah. David, yes, you're doing Persian. Yeah, and that's something else that I'm loving is some more Persian reenactors coming out. I think is it you and Marcus? Is Marcus going to Mott? But Marcus also does Persian as well. And I think it'd be awesome to do some more Persian, see some more Persian reenactors, and joining onto the Greek phalanx to sort of present that Persian and Greek history. Really awesome. I'm really happy to see more Persian reenactors. Yeah, we often get, I mean, all across historical accounts, especially modern ones, we sort of get narratives put through. So yeah, like you see the sort of Herodotus is west versus east and stuff like that. Yeah, and of course we get that with modern historians as well. I mean, it's one of our biggest problems when looking at Sparta specifically, is they have basically been corrupted by historians all across the eras. During like the Cold War or whatever, Sparta is often presented as proto-communist and a sort of a Russian supplement. So we had lots of biases against them, and even ancient sources have biases as well. So it is something that is interesting. We had a lesson of Viking-based group combat yesterday, Shield Wars. It seemed kind of similar to hoplite warfare. Yeah, well, I think something we sort of have to remember is phalanx is a really modernly corrupted term, and I think Paul's talked about this as well. Is Thucydides gives us the term parataxis, which is better. It's basically a collection of units. Um, Phalanx is basically just any army formation, right? To the Greeks. Now, Viking shield wars is interesting because, as far as I'm aware, the actual sources around shield wars has been questioned in the Viking Age. Um, but yeah, fundamentally, I mean, it depends how nitpicky you want to be. Shield walls are fundamentally similar formations, right? So yeah, there probably would be some similarities. You think Greeks call themselves Hellenes? Yes, so they're called Hellenes because not Helen of Troy, Helen of Sparta, but Hellene, who was, or Helen rather, which is actually a man. Difference between spelling it with one L and two L's, and I forget the exact myth, but I believe was Helen the first man, and that's why they call themselves the Hellenes. Is because they are basically all sons of Helen. Is there substance to suggest that the youths were assigned to the front of the phalanx to prevent them from routing? Um, it really depends. There wasn't one uniform structure of a phalanx, so we have the Spartans typically put champions and kings in the front, and you have other polies which seem to put amateurs in the front and veterans in the back, and it probably wasn't even universal within each pot. Has probably changed. So yes, sometimes that's probably the case. Sometimes it probably wasn't. It's probably the easiest answer for that. A proper meetup with Matt because you're also a Brit. Yeah, I am. I actually live in Canada, so unfortunately, I won't be able to meet up with Matt in person. It will be virtual. Um, but who knows? Maybe next time I visit the UK again, it would be awesome to try and meet up with some of the British historical YouTubers. Um, and I mean, a goal that I really want to do, and I have no idea if I'm ever going to be able to get this to work, but I would absolutely love to do an arrows versus armor ancient Greek edition and actually get in contact with Todd from Todd's workshop and try and organize something there. Um, Long time goal of mine, but I would absolutely love to. I can make the shields, we can test the shield, and get other armorers on board and test, because it's really different to ancient armors. Thickness, the actual material itself, the arrows it's coming up against, and we could even test it with other weapons. I think would be really interesting. That'd be something I'd absolutely love to do as a long-term goal, and that would have to be crowd-funded. But I was thinking, yeah, at some point possibly posing that idea officially, and also getting in contact with Todd to see whether that would be something he would also be interested in. But long-term goal, and if not, it'll be something that I would love to test, just within our group. But it's just it's really expensive and difficult. So a long-term goal of mine would be to be able to do something like that, but I don't know if that's realistic. Wonder how much of religious component was a force in hoplite warfare. That's a really interesting question, and there's someone that I know who would be able to give a better answer than that than myself, and that would be my friend John in our group. He's done a lot of research in religion, and he often points out how interesting it is that the gods often play a really physical role in battles when they're described to us. Like they will actually come down and physically move a spear. They're not really just a physical, they're not just a spiritual thing. They're almost very physical. So I think it's said to say, the Greeks would have viewed the gods of having a very active participation within their battles. And again, it would be a type of video I'd be really interested to do with John. I believe he's actually writing a paper on Greek religions. He's done a lot of research on that. But yeah, he often talks about the very active role that the gods have when the Greeks tell the tales of the battle. So it's something that's interesting. Yeah, I think Paul's probably summed that up pretty well. Best fighters up front, young, shaky in the middle, and oldest and steadiest in the back. And that's something that I love as well, is when the Spartans send out the youngest and fastest to run down Peltas. That seems to be something that's almost distinctly Spartan, if I'm not mistaken, which seems interesting. But again, and I'm pretty sure we also have accounts of it sometimes being different. But yeah, that's probably a pretty standard model. Oh, David, you're not sure if Marcus is coming to Fort Mott. It should also be at MTA next year too. That'd be awesome. Yeah, I don't know if I can do MTA next year. I hope so, because it's a really, really fun event. It's awesome. But it is, again, just a 15-hour drive. It is, unfortunately, a really, really big problem. And I was thinking of having days of nights replacing MTA. But we'll see. Hopefully I can make them both work. But MTA is really an awesome event. Greek arrows or some would be so cool. Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely love for that to be a reality at some point. And Jenny, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. I just think it will be a couple years in the process. But I really, really hope that we can make that happen. Yes, that's what it is. Sorry, yes, the son of the man who repopulated the earth after Zeus's flood. That's what it is. It's the flood myth. Yes, thank you for that correction. Love this channel. Hope you have lots of success. Thanks for sharing such good info with us all. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you for being here. And thank all of you guys as well for joining this live stream. I actually had no idea that I would be on here for over an hour now on this little test live stream. But thanks so much. We're really, really happy to have you here. And really glad to hear that you guys are enjoying the channel. How similar is a modern MotoGP rider suit helmet and a 15th century European knight? Is that like a motorcycle helmet? In which case, quite different. They're designed for different things. Typically, modern motor vehicle helmets would be a lot more padded than ancient and medieval helmets. And yeah, they're designed for different things. One of them is predominantly designed for purely blunt impact trauma. The other one's designed to fight against bladed weapons, predominantly, simply put. But yeah, so quite different in their method of construction and intended protection. Make an X or Twitter space. You also stream video. You give access to microphone to the audience so you can have discussions. Oh, that's cool. So you can actually let people join. I think Instagram does that as well. Yeah, it's something I need to work on. I think I should probably try and expand the channel on some more things. I have been posting more on Instagram, trying to grow the Instagram, which is linked in every description. I don't know if it's in the description of live streams. But yeah, I have been trying to sort of spread out to more sites, whatever they're called, platforms, to try and reach more people. I was also thinking about possibly posting things on Facebook. Yeah, I actually don't have an X account, but yeah, that could be something that I look at. Yeah. So yeah, am I streaming on other services? Currently, no, I'm not. Just YouTube. But again, I might try and see if I can cross post to different things. I don't actually really know what's popular right now. YouTube still seems to be the dominating streaming platform, which is good. And lots of people really like TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. Although someone keeps stealing my videos and uploading them on TikTok, and even though I reported them and sent all of the receipts to TikTok, their account still hasn't been made to remove them. So I'm not quite sure how that works. So I am floating around on TikTok, but it's not me. If you see me on TikTok, it's not me. Why is my chat done that? There we go. Where can I buy anatomical greaves after the Polish armorer? Oh, there we go. Sorry, my chat bouncing around. After Polish armorer no longer makes or takes orders, Liber Steel Crafts, yes, is probably a good choice. Again, they're very inconsistent with their wait times. If you want someone of similar quality to Adam Maisie, who's the Polish armorer, I would recommend Theron Greta in Spain. Communication is excellent. I recommend them a lot. They're probably the best armor that I've ever worked with. Communication, price for quality, and actual creation time. It took them 2 weeks, start to finish, to get that helmet to me. Fully custom made, fully customized, and they do really, really good work. And they do work that really feels ancient. The thickness and the style of armor that they use, style of metal that they use, feels really, really similar to the actual ancient stuff. So I'd recommend Theron Greta as a European armorer. They will be more expensive than Liber Steel Crafts. You're probably looking at, I don't know because I haven't quoted them for greaves, probably 800 to 1,000, depending on whether you want embossed greaves or if you want plain greaves. You said anatomical, so yeah, probably around, at a guess, 800 euros. As opposed to Liber, you're probably looking on, 500, 600 USD, so probably pretty similar. But I would say Theron is a better armorer that I'd recommend going with Theron if you were able to fork out a considerable amount of money, which for greaves I would highly recommend because they are actually really, really important armor to fit properly. Let me go back up the chat here because I think I have missed some chats. Followed? Oh, thank you. Follow me on Instagram. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's quite small. I think we've just got to like 350 followers on Instagram. But it's just the type of thing. I just basically I post some specific armor updates and pictures from events on the Instagram, and then I also repost shorts over on Instagram. But yeah, if you guys want to get more sort of behind the scenes pictures and event pictures, then definitely go over and follow the Instagram because I do post on there other things that you don't get to see on the channel. Yeah, like Elon or not, he's a successful man. His tools are really great. Yeah, I mean, there's no questioning that guy's success. Yeah, and definitely, I've heard a lot of people like X as a platform. So yeah, it's definitely something I can look at. Mike, you gotta head out. Well, thank you so much for being on the stream. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, thanks to all of you guys as well for being on here. I wasn't expecting this little test stream to kick off, so thanks very much, and have a good night. Twitch is great for streaming, but my core audience on YouTube. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I know lots of people like to do Twitch. I think Metatron cross streams on Twitch as well. but yeah, the main thing is just I haven't really established Twitch at all. So, and it's also the platforms that I think I'd probably expand to are platforms that I myself use. So YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook probably more likely. But we'll see. It's the type of thing I have to look at. You're from Poland. That's awesome. What type of? Oh, I don't know if you're involved in reenacting at all, but what type of reenactment do you have in Poland? Like, is there a lot of sort of Scandinavian-ish stuff and Rus stuff, or do you have like other eras, World War eras as well? And it'd be interesting to know what you guys actually do in Poland. What is my opinion on the Greenwich armor? It's a very, very cool armor, I think. Is it stylistically my favorite? No, but it is a really, really cool and really a feat of engineering. Like, that is an absolutely incredible piece of armor. Yeah, really impressive. Really, really cool. Will you make a video or videos on the Mycenaean period? Great question. Again, it's about 1,000 years earlier than the era that I typically focus on. I know it often gets sort of branded ancient Greece, but it is quite a long period of time separating it. It's definitely something that I could see me branching into at some point. Yeah, at least mentioning in videos more. I've been thinking about revisiting the evolution of hoplite armor video that I did a couple years ago now, and actually using my panoplies as examples. So the type of thing that I can touch on in that, but otherwise, it's not necessarily an era that I feel as comfortable talking about because I myself am just not as researched in it. And that's something that I really, really try and avoid on this channel. Is my focus in ancient Greek history is quite hyper focused, right? It's typically ancient Greek warfare and Sparta specifically, and I try not to talk about many other eras because I don't script any of my videos, right? I improvise them all the time. I used to actually compete in an improv team nationally, which is kind of funny thing to think of that I used to do. But yeah, so I don't script my videos, so I literally just go off the fly. And I typically like to talk about things that I myself am comfortable talking about, just because I have done a lot of research in them myself and practical experimentation. And the Mycenaean period stuff, or the Achaean sort of stuff, I haven't had as much experience with that. But it's the only type of thing that I could touch on. And also, of course, I can do more research into. TikTok stealing seems quite common. Just the other day, I heard some streamer who had his whole live stream uploaded on TikTok by some guy. Really? Yeah, it's ridiculous. And what gets me is how TikTok doesn't seem to do anything about it. Like, it's provable plagiarism. And that's my thing is one part of me is like, it's great because obviously my videos are worthy of stealing, which is kind of a compliment, I guess. But at the same time, these videos take a lot of time, you know. It's a lot of work, and a lot of passion that goes into them, and I don't appreciate someone just stealing videos and uploading them. You know, it is not appreciated. And it's not just me that this creator is stealing from, and they've got like 15,000 followers, and all of their videos are stolen from other creators. And it's like, how can TikTok even let that stand? Because I let Metatron know, he reported them. I let Decritem know, he reported them. I reported them, and they're still up. So it's like, I don't understand how TikTok hasn't seen that this channel is fraudulent. It would be great to talk about the 300 movie and reality and the psychology. Sorry, yeah, okay. Oh, interesting. Yeah, okay, that could be interesting. I have a full documentary on Thermopylae at Thermopylae on the channel, which talks about it quite a lot. But yeah, talking about that side of it could be interesting. Even more hard than the Spartans. Yeah, that's something that's interesting to consider, right? Is the Spartans are basically regular guys at the same time. But yeah, they often get neglected, right? The other Greeks that stay behind as well, they seem to get sort of forgotten in the narrative. But yeah, that could be something to sort of to look at as well. Yeah. Yeah, well, one of the reasons that they stayed, right, is because their homes were just beyond the pass, so they were imminently going to fall to the Persians. So it made more sense for those Greeks specifically to stay than other Greeks further on the mainland. But yeah, still definitely a brave uh, stand that these people made. Yeah, sacrifice. Yeah, absolutely. Just want to say I'm really happy your channel is doing so well. You seem like such a very swell, genuine guy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I was really surprised. This time last year, I was at less than 5,000 subscribers, and we're now at just under 50,000. So it really, I like incredible growth that I saw in this year. And again, that's all thanks to you guys. Really, I really can't thank you guys enough for continually watching the videos, hearing me drabble on about stuff. And what got me was like, I had a few shorts that went viral. I have a short that's got 10 million views, another one's 3 million views. I was like, whoa, okay. And yeah, a few other long form videos that are now starting to pick up. My channel's always sort of lacked in the long form department. It's weird. Lots of my long form videos don't get very many views. But now they seem to be picking up. Some of my latest videos seem to be doing quite well. So that's great. And thank you very much. Really, really appreciate that. I feel fortunate to have been sent home from work today. Yeah, it's always the case. It's always great when you get sent home today. Which is kind of sad when we think of that. Like, oh yes, let me not go to work. Yeah, have invite people onto the live stream as an X feature. Yeah, that could definitely be something that we could look at in the future. It could be quite interesting to actually directly talk to the viewers. How much did kings and generals actually expose themselves in Greek warfare? Kings and generals. That's a channel I rarely watch. From what I've seen of them, though, they seem to be usually pretty good. I'm not sure what specific case their Greek warfare video is and what they would have exposed themselves on. So I'm not quite sure, actually. Oh, where you are in the UK, you have a lot of Viking age. I mean, are you close? There's a big festival in York, isn't there, in England? Are you close to that one? Yeah, there's a lot of Scandinavian sort of presence in England, which I suppose makes sense, right? Like, not only did they pillage us, but they also lots of them integrated into England, and then of course we got conquered by the Normans. So England is a really interesting sort of cesspit of different cultures that invaded us as well. So I really like the 300 movie because it's great cinematography and dialogue. There's actually a one-to-one adaptation of the graphic novel. Yeah, I 100% agree. One of my favorite films of all time, but I view it as a comic book movie. I absolutely love the style and character that film has. It is an awesome film. It's an awesome action film. Absolutely love it. And it is a comic book film. It doesn't even try to say that it's based on historical events. It's trying to say it's based on a comic book. And I often stand by, people think of comic book movies as though it's only Marvel and DC. I still stand by it. 300 is the most faithful comic book movie adaptation. Rise of an Empire was absolutely horrible, though. Yes, I agree. I was very upset with that film. Good score, good music, but otherwise didn't like the film. Mycenaean armor is very advanced. Yeah, it's a really interesting, crude but like really effective style of armor that again often gets overlooked, I think, when people are talking about armors. And something that I also love about the full archaic hoplite as well is people typically think of full plate armor emerging in the 14th century. full plate armor was around in the 6th century BC. You know, it's really interesting to sort of look at the evolution of a lot of armor to less armor, and then a lot of armor again. But again, because armor fundamentally changes to be used within the battlefield that it's used on, right? So when you start to shift to heavily formationalized warfare, the need for excessive armament decreases, right? So that's one of the main reasons why we see a lot of armor into like less armor and then into more armor. Is the style of warfare just changes, and armor changes because of that, or vice versa. You know, there's a bit of both going on there. We have another theatre kid in here. Yeah, I enjoyed doing drama. I wouldn't necessarily describe myself as a theatre kid, but I enjoyed doing acting, and yeah, I competed on an improv team. We competed nationally at the National Arts Centre a couple of times. It's like a comedy thing. Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Yeah, I guess you could say I was a theatre kid, especially in high school. But yeah, I haven't really continued doing it. It was just a thing that I did for fun. But no, it was a lot of fun. Let's see. Because TikTok's Chinese and don't care about copyright. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe that does have something to do with it. I'm not sure what different countries' sort of stance is on yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, Paul, I may have misread the question about kings and generals. There's a YouTube channel called Kings and Generals. I thought you were talking about that. I understand. I completely misread your question. You were asking whether kings and generals expose themselves in hoplite warfare as an actual kings and generals. Sorry about that. Yes, typically kings and generals fought on the front. And I believe that's what Paul was just answering. So sorry about that misunderstanding there. Yeah, so Paul says, yes, kings and generals fought near the front and often were killed, famously Epaminondas. The Theban died this way, and the Spartan king Helot. Yeah, we actually do see typically commanding officers fighting on the front. And a lot of them do end up getting strung down. Yeah, Cleon Brotus, isn't it, at Nukature? Yeah, that was Cleon Brotus. Yeah, he gets killed. No, we even see Brasidas, he gets killed as well, and Amphipolis and gets very wounded at Pylos and Spectaria. So yeah, so kings and generals were often in an area of possible threat. Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I misunderstood that question again. I thought you mean the YouTube channel Kings and Generals exposed themselves in a video that they did. Let's see. Yeah, but again, so I understand you want me to switch to X, but my platform is YouTube, right? And streaming on YouTube, I'm trying to read as many comments as I can, so I might fall behind on the chat. YouTube is the platform that I'm comfortable using, and it's fundamentally the platform that my audience is on. So I can look at doing X at some point, but I'm not going to switch from YouTube streaming because it is where my audience is and it's what my platform's built on. So yeah, unfortunately, there seems to be a bit of a stream delay. Hopefully it's not too annoying. Our copyright isn't really something that the Chinese care about. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Really appreciate your channel. My dude fills me with joy, pride, and knowledge. Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. It really, really does mean a lot to know that you guys appreciate the stuff that we do here. So thank you so much. And fundamentally, this channel wouldn't exist if you guys didn't watch it, right? So yeah, I put some work in behind the scenes and I make these videos. And I'm just really glad that you guys want to watch it. So thank you. Thank you equally. Well, this is a great question. When did your interest in Greece start? That is quite a complicated question. So it started when I was really, really young, probably around, sorry, excuse me, probably around age 6 or 7. I got really, really into it. And it just sort of escalated and became out of control from there. And I got my first helmet. It was an excellent quality 300 helmet replica from Amazon for my 8th birthday, I think it is. And I actually still keep it. It's still in my room back home. And it just sort of escalated from there. I got really, really interested in the Greek side of it, and never really interested in the mythology, which I think is different. Most kids probably get into it because of the myths. I got into it because of the history. And yeah, it just sort of escalated from there. I kept getting into it. I kept building the kit. Eventually, I got in contact with a guy called Ash, who was an absolutely lovely guy. Unfortunately, he recently just passed away of cancer. Bless him. But he made my linothorax for me, the checkered one that you guys probably know. And he also told me about the Platea event it was going to be 2020, and then because of COVID, it got postponed to 2022. And then I went to that. And I met my current group, and yeah, and I got really, really heavily invested. So I've been a reenactor since I was 14 or 15, but I've been like actually into ancient Greece since I was about 6. So it's been just sort of a long spiraling journey, to be quite honest. And my bank account is punished because of it. Yeah, you meant kings and Greek kings. Yeah, sorry, I understand that. I really did misread your comment. Oh, near Wales, not near York. Oh, okay, interesting. How tanned were the ancient Greeks? It depends on the individual, really. We can probably expect most of them to be quite tan, although sometimes we have descriptions of aristocrats being described as being pale, like fair-skinned. And we also have descriptions, for instance, Helen was supposed to have had very white skin. But yeah, typically probably similar to modern Greeks and Spanish sort of skin tones. But would have depended on whether you worked outside, whether you worked inside, your social class. Would have depended on the individual. Yes, very valid comment. Even today, a spear is an underrated tool. Stick with the pointy stick versus strongman. You win anyway. Yeah, I mean, spears are absolutely great. I am a big spear fan. Yeah, it dominated the battlefield for a very, very long time. It's very Zack Snyder. Yeah, Xerxes is such an interesting blinged out baby in 300. No, Zack Snyder's a director that I know lots of people don't like. I really quite like his work. And yeah, 300 is stylistically masterpiece. Absolutely love it. Oh, we have a donation. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that, Conway. Sorry, I missed that when you did that. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Thanks for your support. Keep up. He says, sorry. Keep up the vids. Love the channel. Thank you very much. Oh, this is a good question. Paul may have already answered this for you, as I know he's doing a better job at keeping up to date on comments than me. How important was the trophy-taking culture for the Greeks in warfare? It seems that it was very common and popular, especially in the archaic period. And in fact, peltasts often got all the good loot. So, you might see a peltast fighting as a peltast in one battle and a hoplite in the next. And then I believe, I'm not entirely refreshed on the sources here, but it begins to sort of be socially unacceptable to loot all the dead at a certain time. But earlier on, yeah, looting of the battlefield was a very prevalent thing that happened. Hey, I love your videos. Would you consider making a video on types of terror and how they varied in length or shape over time? Never discussed. Thank you very much. That is, yeah, I could probably do a video on that. Terror are an interesting topic, especially when we start talking about them in terms of bronze cuirasses. But yeah, that could be something we could look at. Yeah, or maybe a YouTube short on terror. I'm not sure if I can do a full length video on that. But yeah, that could be something that we can look at. Yeah, not a bad idea. Yeah, because they do undergo decent significant change. Yeah. Yeah, X is essentially, yeah, and I will have a look at X. I know that you're very keen on me switching to X. It definitely won't switch from YouTube, because that, again, is just where my audience is. And I'll rewatch the stream once it's over, and so I can sort of see how much the delay is. Maybe there's a way that I can try and get the delay to be less noticeable. Yeah, sorry if it is. You lag now, would it be 100 people commenting? I think it's just a stream delay. It might even be within the settings of my streaming, of Restream, which again, maybe I'll have to look at. So I don't think it actually is lagging because of the current 14 people that we have in the chat. I think it's just because there's a stream delay. I'm not sure how long the stream delay is. Hopefully it's not too long, maybe 20 seconds or so. But yeah, anyway, it's something I'll look at. This is my first ever live stream. It's a test stream, so we'll have a look, and I'll see what we can do. A trophy comes from the word, yeah. So yeah. Paul's talking about tropeon, I think is sort of how it's pronounced in ancient Greek. Yeah, which is where you direct those sort of scarecrow figures. Oh, Adam's father is a saint. Yeah, honestly, I can't thank my dad enough, Paul, for everything that he did, and I love his journey into reenacting. So those who don't know, my dad reenacts with me, and bless him, he was originally not supposed to come with me to Greece. My mum was supposed to come with me, and I can't exactly remember what came up, but she couldn't. She had to go. There's some medical problems came up with my grandparents, so my mum had to go back to the UK. So my dad ended up coming with me to Greece, and that journey was, oh my gosh. Honestly, maybe we'll say that for a live stream for another day, that story. So he ended up coming to Greece, and he had no idea what to expect, and he was like, oh, I was blah, 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 blah. And he ended up really enjoying it and really liking the people that we met there. And he's now become a full reenactor. He's making his own stuff and buying helmets, and he still goes to events with me now, even though I'm not 16 anymore. And yeah, honestly, I can't thank my dad enough for how much he made it possible for me to do the reenacting. And I love how he's sort of still doing it. And even again, now I've moved out as well. We're still going to events together, so we're still going down to days of nights together and all these other events. And no, I really can't thank my dad enough. If you haven't, you should buy the 300 comic book. I have it actually. Beautiful work of art. Yeah, it's in my parents' house. I should probably bring it here actually. No, it's an awesome comic book. It will be probably quite treasured in my book collection. Yeah, sorry about the delay. I'm also fully aware that I am down the chat because I am trying to read and respond to a lot of comments. So it probably amplifies the delay of the stream because I'm further up the chat than what's currently being said. Stream's been relatively smooth. Thank you very much. Yeah, and again, this is something that I literally just started doing. It's my first ever stream, so hopefully we can iron out some of the creases. I can also figure out how I can switch screens to share screens as well, because it'd be the type of thing that I'd really enjoy to react to videos together and stuff like that as well in future live streams. As much as I also love the chats, I think the chats are really fun. But yes, so definitely have some ironing out to do. But yeah. Where did I go? Where did I go when I was in Greece? I've done a few Greece trips actually. Most of our events are at Plataea in Boeotia. But we did a week-long sort of pre-Peloponnesian tour last year. So we spent a couple of days in Athens. We went to where did we go? We drove to Pylos. We stayed in Pylos. We went to Mycenae and different battlefields. Then we went up to Plataea for the week-long event. We went to Thermopylae, Leucatra, and then the next Greek event is in 2027, and that is at Pylos in the Peloponnese. We're going to do a reenactment event at the Battle of Pylos and Sphacteria. So that's sort of where I've been. I've been Attica, Peloponnese, and into Boeotia. So next on my list, next time we go, I still haven't been able to make it to Olympia, unfortunately. We've done Delphi and most of the other sites. Olympia is especially the museum, is something where I really want to go. Which town do you live in Greece? My Greek town geography might not be great, but yeah, it could be the type of thing as well that I could definitely look at if it's especially if it's on the road. Let them speak on YouTube. Yeah, I think I'm never going to not stream on YouTube because again, it's where my platform is. So if I stream on X, then even if the stream delay is not as bad, then I'm going to have to divert my audience from YouTube onto X. So it's not going to be as fluid in that sense. So again, sorry for the stream delay, but also now I'm caught up on the chat, so I should see them when they come in relatively quick. That's great. So yeah, thanks for all of you guys as well for joining me today. Hi from evil Persia. I don't think it's fair to say that the Persians are evil. I think they're actually a very interesting empire, actually. And perhaps they should be a culture that we delve into more on the channel, actually. Look at the Persians a little bit more. Because for being an imperialistic power, they were actually really interesting. Some of the societal things that they did. Stay on YouTube, please. Yeah, I will definitely be staying on YouTube. Maybe I could look to cross-streaming onto X. X is a scary place. Yeah, I've never been on it. I don't have X. I try and not be on social media too much, which is kind of counterproductive when I'm trying to build a platform. But anyways, we'll see. You lived in, really sorry if I messed this up, Epidavros, but spent a lot of time in Talos. Okay. Oh, and Argos. Argos is cool. I've driven past Argos. I've never actually been to Argos. If you ever get the chance to check the ancient theatre, it's incredible. I've actually performed there. Oh, wow. Awesome. Yeah, that's one thing I love about Greece, actually, is that a lot of the ancient amphitheatres they still use. Like the one going up to the Acropolis is still in use, which I think is really, really cool. I've seen your Viking vids a bit. How would you say you are split in interest in Greek/Viking? Like 95-5 in terms of Greek. The Viking stuff was something I found interesting. It was sort of a fun kit to build. But yeah, it's just sort of been a sort of side thing that I just also found interesting. The two eras that I'm the most interested in is archaic Greece and late 14th, early 15th century medieval England. And that's the next kit that I'm building. It's sort of a turn of the 15th century, 14th, 15th centuries English knight. Viking Age is something I found interesting, and I sort of like how one of the things that drove me to it was how terribly represented it is. But yeah, overall, Greece is my main era. Yeah. Am I married? No, I'm not married, but I am in a long-term relationship. Yeah, so just trying to help. Yeah, no, and I appreciate your input. And I appreciate you just trying to make the streaming experience better. It's just, I think it's going to come with some problems if I switch over to X as opposed to YouTube. But it might be the type of thing that I can cross-stream to, but I'm not sure if I'm going to get around to doing that soon. Only 5% Rip Vikings. Yeah, I don't know. It might be a little bit more than that. It's an era that I have an interest in. It's just my interest in Greece is just unhealthily big. So, you know. I'm actually curious to know, with the audience, like you guys, what eras of history are your favorite? Is your favorite ancient Greece, or do you like other eras? Because as I expand my interest in my reenactment impressions, I want to sort of try and branch out into some more eras of history. And typically, what I want to start with doing, actually, which I think is quite interesting, is comparing ancient to medieval things. So yeah, I'd be interested to know what eras of history do you guys really like as well. Ooh, you got a 14th century pub with a bullet hole. Man, they're trying to shoot Oliver Cromwell, apparently. Well, that's quite interesting. I bet that's a good selling point for the pub. Any thoughts on Macedonian armor? Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, it's very similar to lots of ancient Greeks, sort of classical and classical and archaic Greek armor. Although I prefer the styles of armor from the earlier period. But otherwise, yeah, I think lots of the Macedonian stuff's quite cool. Of course, you have iconic things like the silver shields as well. Used to be a big Warhammer fan, but currently diving into full medieval 11th century. That's awesome, actually, because the 11th century is sort of an underdone era. That's a great era to be into. That's really, really cool. It is a cool and interesting era as well. Because it is interesting, because here in North America, the focus is 100 Years' War. But in England, it's typically War of the Roses. Sort of interesting. Do I work on a museum? No, I don't work in a museum. Actually, currently, YouTube is my sole source of income right now. I used to work a lot of jobs. All throughout high school, I worked 2 jobs. I worked at a hardware store on the weekends, and I worked at a restaurant weekdays. I was then supply teaching at my old school. On my year out, I was a supply teacher. I worked on my girlfriend's farm. I've worked on summer camps. I've done sort of a lot of things, and I'm actually currently looking at getting my security license and becoming a security guard. But yeah, YouTube is currently my main source of income. jumping around and looking at sort of different eras. Yeah, that's fair. Kind of just love history, to be honest. Greece history fills me with pride. Love Egyptian history too. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I mean, most history lovers love multiple eras, right? I mean, history is just really fascinating. I enjoy learning about 14th to 15th century European armor, but I'm not sure the period itself is my favorite. Yeah, that's fair as well, actually. I think that's a very, very fair point. I'm sort of similar as well. I love the warfare side of 14th, 15th century Europe, but it's not culturally, it's not necessarily the most interesting for me. But I think that's really fair that you can be interested in certain parts of eras. Absolutely. I enjoy learning about 14th, 15th century European armor, but I'm not sure. Oh, sorry, I just read that comment. Actually, my entire channel is Warhammer videos, but Games Workshop are threatening their fans with legal actions. Yeah, it's really a shame. My brother is really, really into Warhammer, and I have a few Warhammer armies as well. You can see I have an Imperial Knight on that bottom shelf there. I think you can just about see him. I got some Space Marines up there. And otherwise, I played Drakari, and that army's still at home. But yeah, I've heard a lot of people that have complained about Games Workshop just being an absolute prick, and it's a shame because, yeah, it is a real shame. I'm sorry to hear if that's affecting your channel as well. Glad you catch a stream. I am very glad that you catch a stream as well. You comment on so many videos. So, and that's one thing that I love about this live streaming is I would love to be able to actually interact with you guys as well in almost real time as we've established the stream delay. Oh, you're also looking at getting your security license, doing first aid course tomorrow. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it seems to pay, where I am now in Ottawa, it seems to be in dire need for security guards, and it seems to pay decently well. It seems to pay around 23 to 25 Canadian dollars an hour, so it's probably, what, 1 USD? But yeah, because I've actually had an interest in going into the police as a career later on. But yeah, whilst I'm here working on the channel, getting a sort of part-time secondary income as well will be very helpful, because groceries aren't cheap in these lands. So yeah, it's something that I'm looking at. Well, best of luck on your first aid course tomorrow. I don't know about you, but the security course that I can do is only a 2-day program. It seems they're that desperate. I like the Hellenistic era, but also love the era of Norman conquest. Yeah, that's also a really interesting era. And another era that I actually really, really like is the sort of Vendel period. The pre-Viking age is an era that I think is super, super cool. That also has some of the coolest armament in all of history as well, like the Valsgard helmets. What do you think about Portuguese history? To be quite honest with you, I haven't done much research at all on Portuguese history, so sorry, I can't really answer that. There was the comment that I was reading. You have a very, very soft spot for late Bronze Age Greece and Anatolia. Yeah, that's interesting. And Bronze Age is another one as well, I think, that often gets sort of the short end of the stick. And I think it's because people conflate the Bronze Age with the early Iron Age. Lots of people think that, like, Thermopylae is in the Bronze Age when it isn't. But yeah, and most people sort of, I mean, the Greeks sort of as well, depict Homeric era heroes with classical armament. So no, that's a great era. Now I see it. Nice Titan Man. Thank you very much. Is that also the Leggins Lion Knight's castle on the top shelf? Yes, it is. I happen to be into the 3 most expensive hobbies in the world: reenacting, Warhammer, and buying massive Lego castles. Yes, that is the Lion Knight's castle. That was actually a gift that I gave to myself when the channel hit 30,000 subscribers, because I learned that it was expiring. Or discontinuing, rather. They're discontinuing it this year, and I was like, I have to get that. So yes, I do have the Lion Knight's castle up on the top. And then I also have a big collection of historical miniatures as well. I have some hoplites and stuff in there. Maybe at a later date on some streams I can take some stuff down. Again, I got some artifacts up on here, some pop replicas and original pieces as well, which could be quite cool. I used to be a Warhammer animator, going to release an animation this month. I'll have to check that out. That's really, really cool. Animation would be something that I would love to get into, actually. That would be super, super cool. Sorry to ask again, just real curious if you've heard anything. We were talking about Greece's strong religious beliefs, but I understand Alexandria was quite multicultural. We were talking about ancient Greece's strong religious beliefs in. That's an interesting question. Alexandria does seem to be quite a multicultural sort of port, and I'm not really sure. Again, that's sort of an era that I haven't looked into as much. And of course, you have some Greek states that are perhaps more religious than others as well, sort of similar to many different religions. Oh, you're transitioning into a medieval channel, which is your first true love medieval history. Well, that's awesome. And you know what? I think Warhammer and medieval are sort of interlinked. It sort of be like having cavalry charges next to tanks is basically Warhammer 40k. So. Your favorite age would be from late antiquity, East Roman Byzantine transition. Oh, interesting. To the end of the Viking Age. Yeah, that's another cool era. And again, another era that doesn't get a lot of focus. Like, as you all know, Rome definitely didn't span 1,000 years or anything, and all Romans were imperial. Yes, I would love to see more Roman reenactment groups as well that aren't just doing first century AD. I'd love to see some more sort of Republican Romans and late Romans as something that really, really doesn't have any, at least where I am, basically any life in the reenactment world. The UK is funny, they ban knives, not spears. Yeah, the UK has some questionable laws, and Canada's the same. Like, I legally am not allowed to own a nunchuck in Canada, but I'm allowed to own a Dane axe, a halberd, a hunting rifle. I don't understand who they think the ninjas are going to come from with their little nunchucks. Some interesting laws that are quite questionable. Oh, that's a great question. If you had the opportunity, what would I say to Leonidas? That is a great question. I feel like I'd probably ask him, what made you stay at Thermopylae? An interesting question, because we actually don't know why he stayed at Thermopylae. That would be an interesting question. Or why did you only send 300 Spartans? Because again, that's an answer that we don't really know, because we have multiple accounts telling us different things. So probably one of those two questions. Bronze Age often gets overshadowed by classical Greece. Yeah, definitely, which is a shame. Yes and no. One of the main reasons is because we know more about classical Greece, right? The Bronze Age is more undefined, and I do personally prefer classical Greece. But yeah. 3 most expensive hobbies in the world. Rip my wallet. Yes, it is a very unfortunate linkage between happiness and lack of weight in the wallet. Yeah. I should become a barista as well. Sorry, you should become a barista. It pays well. Interesting lifestyle as well. Yeah, I've thought about it. That is an interesting question. I also feel like having an English accent in Canada would mean that I would get great tips as a waiter. Who knows? Yeah, but we'll see. Are you a fan of Age of Empires? I actually haven't played Age of Empires, but I am a fan of Age of Mythology. I don't know if you guys have played that game. My brother really likes Age of Empires too, and he keeps pestering me to get it, so I probably should. Oh, Paul's heading out. Well, thanks, Paul. Thanks for also contributing to this conversation. And yeah, it'll be great if we can do some live streams together at some point. I think that would be really awesome as well. Do I know anything about the Ionian League? To be honest, nothing super specific. No, nothing crazy. Age of Empires is great. Yeah, absolutely. It looks really fun. I'd like to ask Leonidas, what do you think of the Athenians? Well, that's something that's interesting. We often have this idea that the Spartans and Athenians were polar opposite rivals, but for most of history, they were allies, right? They didn't have anything to do with each other. It just happens to be that the largest war in ancient Greece happens to be between coalitions led by Athens and Sparta. But otherwise, earlier on, Athens and Sparta fought typically more wars together than against, and later on as well, they fought against the Thebans together. So, the Peloponnesian War and the Corinthian War are the two main conflicts where they're pitched against each other. But otherwise, Athens and Sparta are typically on decently good relations on the most part. For instance, the Spartans were, apart from the Plataeans, the only other state to answer the call to marathon as well. So something that's interesting to think about. Been playing Empire Total War lately. I've popped back on, Rome 2 recently as well. The great games. I love the Total War games. You just revealed your psychology, bro, asking Leonidas why he did this. You have a long way before you to improve to be a man. What? Interesting. You'd ask Leonidas what is his profession. Good one. Who would win, Hector versus Demosthenes? I think Hector was a more renowned fighter, so probably Hector. Demosthenes was quite a good tactician, but not necessarily anything special when it came to fighting. Actually, great point. Yeah, if I want to get into animation, and I will join my friend Martin with Heroes in Bronze and ask him to give you a crash course in Blender. Yeah, honestly, my main problem is I'm not sure if my laptop is good enough to run Blender. But it's been a lot of fun working with Martin on this project. He's just asked me for a few historical feedback points, and I've told him what I would sort of change, and he's gone with that how he wants to. And again, he modeled a character on my guy. But no, absolutely, that would be something that'd be really, really cool to talk about. Yeah. Was it your ego forcing you to be a hero or prostitute? Thinking that there's a lot more to that question, though, because we don't know why he stayed, right? The common sort of narrative is he was a Spartan who wouldn't retreat, but we know the Spartans retreated in multiple instances. So the other side of it of did Leonidas stay in a deliberate action to sacrifice himself to fulfill an oracle? Well, the oracle is an interesting situation because Herodotus drops it in a lot later, right? And we can sort of question that. The Spartans originally say that they send so few basically because they're in the midst of a religious festival, but we know from earlier battles that the religious festival happened weeks after, so that's not really very reliable. The Spartans told multiple stories, which seems interesting because why wouldn't you have just told the true story? And also, yeah, there comes to that side that we have to remember that Leonidas wasn't raised a king. He became king when he was 50 years old, which means that he was a follower his whole life. So there's also the psychological aspect to Leonidas that's quite interesting of, is he really a strategically minded person in the sense that he previously followed king's orders. He didn't have to give orders, right? He campaigned under his brother for most of his life. So he was ordered by the Spartan government to hold that pass. It's also a really interesting psychological aspect to look at as, was this an old man who buckled under the pressure of leading an army and said, you know what, I don't really know what to do as a king, or I know what to do as a Spartan, that's to follow orders. So there's a lot of interest. We don't know Leonidas as a character, right? We only know him, we only judge him based on his actions at Thermopylae, which are questionable. So I think asking his reasoning for doing stuff can give you a lot of insight into who Leonidas was as a person. Was he a very strong leader who did this self-sacrificing move, or was he someone who more just fell back on, I was ordered to do this, so I'm going to do that? You know, I think it's an interesting question. You have a few thousand hours in Rome too. Good man. Demosthenes versus Alcibiades. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure I really have enough to go on to say. I'd probably say Demosthenes, but I'm not sure, to be honest. I think that's more of a 50-50 split. Your laptop can run Blender. You'll be learning some 3D modeling. Yeah. The laptop I have right now is decent. I've never really operated Blender, but yeah, it would be something that would be interesting to look at. Have you ever had Christian Cameron on your channel? I'm sure you've heard of him. So yeah, I know Christian personally. Actually, he was the organizer of the first Potato event. I have never had him on the channel personally. Our personalities clash a little bit, is what I'll say. But I haven't actually read his Long War series, but I do have his the In-Made Knight as well. But Christian, unfortunately, doesn't really do the Greek stuff anymore. He predominantly just does his medieval stuff. So he's sort of stepped away from the Greek stuff, unfortunately, because otherwise he was quite a valuable character to have. But yeah, maybe it'd be the type of thing, maybe if he releases a new book, the type of thing that I could talk to him about. We haven't actually talked since 2022. But yes, I do know Christian. We just started doing game design at uni. We'd be happy to do things for you for free, of course. Yeah, no, thank you. That's really, really kind of you. That's awesome, game design. That's super, super cool. You know what? I don't know if this is even in. No idea how game design works. I've never done it before. I have always wanted to somehow design a game that actually sort of accurately recreates phalanx warfare. I think that'd be super, super cool. So again, I have no idea how that would work, or even how you start making a game. But that would actually be super, super cool if once you've done your game project, if you would be interested in making an ancient Greek game. Of course, we could even maybe try and crowdfund it as well through the channel. That could be super cool to try and make a game that sort of accurately brings phalanx warfare to life. And I know there's a game coming out soon called Strategos. That's sort of like Total War. That looks interesting. I'll be interested in that, and perhaps I'll do a video on that when that comes out. I'm not sure when that comes out. Yeah, better start sooner than later for animation. Yeah, I can believe it. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to try and speed run some of these comments here because I am dropping behind. I give too long answers to questions sometimes. Have I heard of the Athenian general? No, I have trouble pronouncing this name. I have heard of him, yeah, Iphicrates, I think is how you pronounce it. I have, yeah, not much in detail though, to be quite honest. Not a lot. What do you think about Assassin's Creed Odyssey? I love Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I got that. I actually got a PS4 to play that game back in 2018 because my computer wasn't good enough to run it. And I really enjoyed that game. I think it was my first Assassin's Creed game that I ever played. I played Odyssey, then I played Black Flag, then I played Valhalla. Those are the only three I've actually played. I really enjoyed Odyssey, and mainly what I really enjoyed was how they recreated the actual world. I thought they did a really good job at capturing that ancient Greek architecture and feel. I thought it was really, really cool. The armament was okay. I sort of wish that it was more historically accurate, but at the same time, some of the armor sets weren't bad. But yeah, overall, I really, really enjoyed that game. I thought it was really, really good, and I thought it was a cool way of introducing the Assassin's Creed world into ancient Greece. Overall, really, really enjoyed that game. Good evening. Nice to see you here, Honey. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Yes, that's right. Philip, yes. Okay, now coming back to me. Yeah, Philip II may have been influenced by him. Yes, quite possibly. Have I tried the Strategos demo? I didn't. I'm not sure if it's still available, and I missed it when it came out, unfortunately. And I was going to try and get in contact with the developer to possibly see if they wanted to sponsor a video, or so I can review it or whatever. And for some reason, I just could not find a contact email for the developer. So maybe I should look for it again. But yeah, that game looks cool. That'd be great. I think the closest we got was Total War. Total War is interesting because overall it's really good, but at the same time, me and Paul were talking about this as well. One of the worst things that was ever done was visualizing phalanx warfare as blocks of men, because that's not really how it works. In the sense that it's not just like one line of dudes; it's more like a string of beads that is units operating sort of separately. Total War, though, awesome. I love the way that it works, and that's one thing that I really like about Strategos is that it seems to actually have delays in command structure. Like your general has to be within earshot of the men for the order to actually work, which is realistic, right? You would have to, you'd probably have a battle plan, and if it goes wrong, it would take time for your general to recorrect and for units to move. Whereas in Total War, you just sort of have that god power of just being able to move. So I think it'd be really cool to see how Strategos works, but also, yeah, to try and accurately recreate that phalanx warfare. And perhaps even have a means of taking control of a guy in it would kind of be cool. And specifically, I think what would be a really fun style of game to play would be a game set in archaic Greece, where you're more open, you're throwing javelins everywhere and stuff like that, and more of a skirmishy type game. What degree of knowledge do you have on the Hellenistic form of war from Philip II onward? Not a lot. A Hellenistic period, again, isn't really something that I've done a lot of research in. My focus is predominantly archaic warfare, right? So around 550 BC into the early classical is my main focus. So anything after Peloponnesian War, especially, I haven't done much research in, and more importantly, I haven't done any practical recreations of as well. So not a lot. Oh, really? You found your hometown in Assassin's Creed Odyssey? That's super cool. Age of Empires 2 has a new DLC that's about Alexander the Great. That's cool. That's very, very cool. You've just missed my comment, didn't respond to it. What do you think I will do? Stay. I'm not offended, but I hope you see the problem, which doesn't exist yet. Sorry, I can't respond to every comment, and I've responded to a lot of yours already, so sorry if I missed one. I understand that probably don't like the stream delay. Sorry, but at the same time, I've already answered that question multiple times. So, yeah, sorry about the inconvenience of the stream delay, but at the same time, I'm not going to switch my streaming from YouTube, which is where my platform is, to X, just because I have no audience on X. Have you ever played the AoE games, Age of Empire games? I actually haven't played Age of Empire. My brother does. He keeps telling me to get the game, and I probably should. I think we talked about it slightly earlier, but I think it was before we joined the stream. I did play Age of Mythology, which is a fun game. But yeah, I actually never played an Age of Empires game. But I know I'm missing out. I probably should. Let me see if I can find the comment of yours that I missed. Yeah. Again, that's what I'm saying. So when you're talking about medals of honor and thinking about heroism, that's what I mean. We don't know why Leonidas stayed, right? So that's why I would ask him that question. That can give us a lot of insight into his character. You had a good time anyway. Well, I'm glad to hear that, and thank you for staying on the stream for a long time. Age of Mythology's peak, yeah. Vulame, I love that game. Yeah. I often wish there was more factions in it, though. Like, I feel like it should have had Rome instead of Atlantis or something. But yeah, I always just played as the Greeks. My brother always played as the Norse, and he'd always just come and ransack my towns as I'm trying to build a city, and then suddenly there'd be some Vikings at my shore, and I'd be like, oh. But yeah, awesome game. I love it. I love like older style games. Like I absolutely love the old Star Wars Battlefront games as well, like Battlefront 2 from like 2005. And there's something I love about the character of those graphics. The point is that you have 9 people and you're missing comments. Yeah, I can't read every comment. I'm sorry, and it says here I have 12 people. But anyways, but yeah, most streamers don't even respond to as many comments that I'm responding to. So I'm really sorry that I missed some comments, but I'm also trying to basically read and give an in-depth answer to every comment that I can. So so sorry that I missed a comment, but I think I answered most of your comments before. Prostagma, yeah. I love all the voice commands in that game. Retold has Chinese and Japanese. Is coming at the end of the month. It was Retold a game? I haven't actually heard of Retold. Yes. You're doing great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, and I hope that you guys have had a fun time as well, just basically chatting. Again, more of these streams will hopefully be structured. We'll be doing something once we start to get the streams up and running. But also, I really enjoy just these sort of streams where we just start chatting. I think that yeah, I think it'll be fun to just continue to do chat videos as well, or maybe at the end of every stream or at the beginning of every stream, something like that. My opinion on why Leonidas stayed is because he was a true soldier's soldier. He wasn't expected to take the throne, so he was raised the traditional Spartan agoge. Yeah, I think that's a big thing, and that's what Roll talked about in our video on the Spartans. Is he was raised to be a follower, not a leader, right? So when he stepped up as king at age 50, right, he was only king for about 10 years. It was very rare that he had the he wouldn't typically have led men. So he could have fallen back on my orders were to hold the pass. That's what I'm going to do. So it's an interesting. At the time. Anyway, good luck, bro. I love your different approach to the Spartans. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Oh, Retold is a definitive edition of Age of Mythology. Oh, interesting. Okay, I did not know that. That's great then. They're adding more factions. That's cool. All right. Well, I'm thinking I might wrap this up. We've been streaming for 2 hours and 21 minutes. That is surprisingly a very long time. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate the conversation that we had and for just joining this test stream that we set up. So yeah, I really hope that I can figure out some more of these bits with the streaming. Thanks for sitting through the tech difficulties that we've had. And yeah, hopefully this will be a sort of common weekly occurrence. I think probably Saturdays, evenings, Eastern Standard Time will be hopefully when we stream. So yeah, thanks very much. Really, really appreciate all of you guys being here and really, really appreciate the conversations that we've had. And we've got a new video coming out on Thursday on something to do with Leonidas, actually. So that's fitting of our discussion. Anyway, so hopefully catch you guys there. So thanks very much for being here. Really, really nice to talk to you guys and looking forward to these future streams as well. So have a good evening, morning, wherever it is that you are. And yeah, I'll hopefully see you guys around.